Welcome to Conversations for Our Time, podcast number 19, with the Quiet Sun team, George and John. This is part of our mini series. It'll be part 9, and we're going to pick up where we left off in last week's podcast, which was we were talking, or I was asking George about fasting. So we're going to continue this on, and we'll obviously just get into it and then just see where it takes us. So hope you all enjoy it, and we'll get started. So how are you doing, George?
I'm doing very well, John. How's it going?
Yeah, it's good. It's good. Interesting insights this week.
Yes.
So yeah, a lot of introspection, um, and yeah, I actually did an intermittent fast on Monday, which is really
Excellent.
cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll basically just see how it goes. Um, I'm gonna try again on Monday as well. So maybe not until like 12 o'clock midday. So we'll see how that goes. Anyway, so you've inspired me a little bit, George, to kind of go down that route and try it out.
Yeah,
Um,
it's good. It's good to hear more people are doing it. I'm hearing more people are doing fasting, and it's just a great practice.
yeah, um, yeah. So we'll um, I'll ask you a question, and then obviously I'll just suppose just respond however you feel most naturally, George. If that's cool.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just remember when we talk off air, we talk about a lot of things, and we always talk about how similar we are to Earth. Yeah, and the Earth, as in Mother Earth, the outside world. There's so many allegories that are there waiting for us to connect with and to realize. We're the same as the Earth. We're same as you know the process of how the microorganisms work in the soil and inside of our bodies. Um, so what I wanted to mention is the similarities with that. So with the microorganisms in the soil food web, they break down the nutrients and the microorganisms in our gut break down nutrients. Um, and you'll also find that the microorganisms in the soil compete with each other, and the cells in our bodies compete with each other, with other cells. And there's trillions of microorganisms in the cell, and there's trillions of cells in our body. This is not an accident. This is like it's a mirror, and there's a whole universe in the soil, and a whole world of its own down in that soil. And there is a whole universe in you, in us, and there's a whole world of its own. If we delve into these kind of things, and if you look at a tree stump, it's the same as your fingerprint. The rivers and the oceans are the same as your blood, and the trees are your lungs, and the grass is like our hair as it grows. Earth is your body. We need to take care of both. It's an allegory. What's going on in your body is going on the outside world. In the so-called outside world, because I see life as everything on the outside of us appears to be outside of us, but we live in our soul. And the way that it's all set out to be is where we learn our lessons, and it comes back to us this illusion of separateness, because that's what it is. But it has to look like it's separate, because that's where we learn. But it's all one. So if the Earth is slowly being destroyed, which it has been for decades, then your body is slowly going to be destroyed, and vice versa. That is the allegory. If you heal your body, then you heal the earth. The Holy Land is inside you. And life is showing us that we are the same and what we need to work on. So it's always been the law of correspondence, as above, so below. And for me, it's just truly magnificent to learn this stuff. And these things, these allegories sort of seem to hit me, and I contemplate on it, and I just think this is truly remarkable.
Yeah, it really is, and it reminds me of a Japanese Buddhist. Um, it's like a principle, and it's called Isho Funi. And that Isho Funi stands for the oneness of the self and the environment. There's another one which is like the Shiki Shin Funi, which is the body and the mind. And it's basically saying the same thing, that the environment is a reflection of ourselves, for across all dynamics, um, physically, spiritually, um, even the psychology that exists within us is also mirrored in society. Um, so I think these are really important things to consider, and that so many ancient cultures have talked about this interconnectedness of everything. And the same is with the soil and our guts, right? So yeah, it's really interesting stuff. So I mean, can you kind of expand a little bit more on that and what those relationships are?
Well, in terms of, I mean, it's always good to know, when we're fasting and what's happening to the body. There's so much information out there to learn. Are you happy for me to go into a bit more deeper with the stages of what goes on in the body when we fast?
Yeah, sure, George. Go for it, please.
So when the body goes through, you know, as an average, because I say it depends what kind of fast that you're doing. I'll go through what the body goes through. For example, when you do a water fast, it's probably the most popular fast. Now, it depends what fast you're doing, because all of these stages can happen at different sort of times and different days. Because it depends also on your body weight, it depends on your age, it depends on your health, and how much toxins you have in your body. But this is just an average. So I'm going to break down the stages of a water fast, because it's a great fast to do. I mean, I'm not sure if I mentioned it last time, but the longest water fast I've done is 15 days. Um, and I felt like I was sluggish for the first 3 days, and then after that, it got easier. And it will do. And the first stage um, of fasting is the first uh, 24 hours to 48 hours. Your body's going to go into autophagy, right? And it literally, the body is eating itself, okay? And your body goes for the first thing that the body will go for is the toxins, the garbage that you put in there all of your life, okay? So during the fast, the cells are in some way, they're fighting with each other in a sense, okay? So the body goes through like a process called autolysis, okay? And the body gets rid of the unhealthy cells first, okay? So that only the strong cells survive. So it's really breaking down all those cells, and in effect, these cells are competing with each other, okay? And only the strongest is going to survive. It's like a competition, and in this time, people will experience hunger. They can get a bit irritable and low mood and low energy, but it's it's all perfectly, normal. So I'm sure explaining that sounds familiar to something else, doesn't it, John?
Yeah, sure, George. Sounds like the soil to me. Uh,
It's truly remarkable, isn't it?
yeah, yeah, and this is the thing, isn't it? It's like we're so we live in such a reductionist culture that
Yeah.
everything is tested in isolation, and
Yes.
therefore we get no true understanding of how things interact. And you can't possibly understand something, the completeness of something, when you're just looking at the thing itself. It takes uh, observational experience to be able to see, and this is what, like, the Buddha saw. Lots of other, that's the person I've probably researched the most, but he spent years observing how life worked, and that's what led to his enlightenment, was the realization that this dependent origination, which is nothing is dependent or independent in of itself. So it's truly brilliant, and this another example, George, I think, of this cellular change, is the microcosm to the macrocosm. Um, so, and I think this is happening in the cosmos as well. So I wanted to kind of mention, like, a a quick connection. I've been reading a lot about Rudolf Steiner, and I think I mentioned this before, but nature has a way of capturing these cosmic forces, and we too can do that. But when we're out of balance, um, it can react with us in a different way. So I think all that's really important to bear in mind. And also, I heard something this evening, just before we started chatting, about, you know, breatharians having this practice where they look at the sun just as it's rising and just before it's setting. And they are actually getting cosmic energy from directly from the sun. They're cutting out the process of photosynthesis to protein synthesis, where a plant is actually doing the work of capturing the sunlight and putting it into a biological package and nutrient dense package that we can absorb and then turn back into light energy. So that idea of sun gazing, which I've actually tried before, is really quite interesting, because you're cutting out the need for material substance to fuel your spiritual body. Does that make?
So it's interesting you should say that, John, because I agree with you 100% that we should be getting our life force energy directly from the sun, because we get it indirectly from the food. So it's like it's the plants are being the little bit of the middleman. So it is interesting, and I resonate with it totally, because I see the sun as the male aspect of us, and it's where the life force is, and it comes into us directly. And I do believe that the original humans that were on this earth were breatharians, and they were getting their energy from the air and from the sun. And then you've got the female aspect, which is the moon. But both of these energies really are sort of one. We see it as separate because we've come to learn the different aspects of these things around us. So yeah, I totally resonate with it. It is the life force energy, and it's maybe the reason why the ancients revered the sun so much. It's not just it doesn't only just give us our food. It literally will give you life because of that life force energy, and it's connecting in all aspects within ourselves, like our solar plexus. So yeah, I totally resonate with what you said there.
Cool, man. Yeah, and it's very also interesting. Um, Rudolf Steiner talks about the how we capture energy from the sun is different from the moon, and he talks a lot about the astrological influences on the growth of food. So it's and this male and female aspect, the moon. If you think about what the moon actually affects and what the sun affects, that's a really interesting, because the moon is like this emotional, watery, flowing, indirect type of energy, and the sun is it's full of force, isn't it? It's full of warmth, it's full of radiation. So yeah, I think it's all the ancients understood this, and I think not just breatharianism, but also just enlightenment in general, um, is based on this understanding of these cosmic forces affecting our microcosmic cellular level. And if you can tap into that, then imagine what's possible.
Absolutely, because people do fasting as well on a full moon as well, and these are going to affect us on a cellular level, as you mentioned. Um, and the body also goes through another process called apoptosis, um, which is the actual death of cells, where the body removes these cells without causing harm to your body, but you will feel rough during the fast because that's what the process is happening in your body. It's stimulated and triggered by fasting because you're intentionally trying to get the body to go through this process to cleanse and heal yourself. And fasting accelerates the cellular death, if you like. So the main difference between autolysis and apoptosis is that with autolysis it is the destruction of the cells by enzymes created by the cells themselves, and it happens to injured tissues or dying cells. But the apoptosis is a programmed form of cell death, which cells undergo like an ordered sequence of events which causes its death, but can happen as well to healthy tissue and cells. So it's a similar process, but it's not exactly the same. We don't know why it's like that. Um, is a possibility because when you're fasting, you're intentionally trying to do this. So that might be the reason why. But we are learning so much more now in these days of the connection between your cells and fasting, because this is how it regenerates. Because as I said before, we get our energy from the food, but we break down the glucose. But with fasting, your body needs to produce sugar for energy, and the body will hit a stage of gluconeogenesis. Your liver will convert non-carbohydrate materials, amino acids and fats into glucose. Glucose is your fuel, and this battery saving mode that your body is in can lower the heart rate and blood pressure. But there's nothing to worry about because that is normal, um, and you're going to feel sluggish and you're going to feel tired. So that's welcome to fasting, actually. So it's a beautiful process, and it's one that we have to take sort of responsibility for if we truly want a healthy life and a long life and reverse our damage. It's the same as the soil, John, as you know. We can reverse the damage done to the soil, and we can do the same thing to our bodies.
Yeah, we certainly can, George. Um, how about you kind of give some advice to anyone that's thinking of fasting? And, like in the marathon, right, when you hit that wall and you just don't think you can go any further, I'm sure like this happens in fasting as well. So, like, when you get to like, it starts to become challenging and your mind is telling you to eat something, what would you recommend to people that could help them to kind of get over that obstacle?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a very important question because safety is number one. You've got to remember, right, the body's going to go through a process, it's similar to flu symptoms. Your body is detoxing the crap out of yourself, right? So you've got to remember that people die from the flu, as people know, and it's probably more than what we've been told. So I don't think we'll get a true figure. And I've got to be honest with you that people have died during fasting because they've not listened to their body and they've not done it correctly. You have to go into the fast slow, and you have to come out of it slow. And sometimes you have to break the fast if it's too much for you. If you're genuinely hungry and the ego mind wants something to eat, you can fight that. You just drink more water, depending on what kind of fast that you're doing. You can balance yourself out by going to nature. I felt really sluggish on a hard dry fast once, 3.5 days. And I was on 3 days and I was considering whether to break it or not. But I went out into nature, done my Shinrin Yoku, and I felt fine after that. Although I stopped 3.5 days and I broke my fast. But if you're feeling really like it's too much, I support you 100% in breaking your fast and break it gently with some watermelon, and be safe because there is no rush, um, because you don't want to damage yourself. Okay, it could be too much. But when it gets really rough, that's when your body is really, really cleaning up. But unless you've got a disease, unless you've got a really bad stage 4 cancer. For example, if it was me, I'd push through it and I'll trust my body 100%. But you do have to be careful with that. If you're just generally fasting and you're new to it and you haven't got any serious illness, it's okay to break the fast. As long as you try and increase each time you do a fast, like the amount of time, the length of the fast, you're going to find it gets easier anyway. So what's the fact that if somebody wants to break the fast?
Cool. Thanks. Very useful. Um, how about before we came on the podcast, we were talking about germ theory against terrestrial theory. Could you maybe like talk a bit about that, please?
Yeah, I can go into that. I just wanted to. There was a bit more that I wanted to go into the stages of fasting. Um, so would it be right if I just get back to that moment because there's just some more important processes to go through, but it goes hand in hand, this germ theory and the terrain model. It really, really does. And that's why they call it the germ theory, because it's just that. But it's the terrain model, it's what you put in your body. There's only one there's only one disease really, and that's over toxicity. There's too much toxins in your body, and it will manifest in different areas of the body. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah,
Because
it does.
it's going to show up. It's going to manifest at some part of the body, but it's too much toxins in your body, and it's a building up, and building up, and that's how diseases um, happen in the body, and it's all connected to everything we're talking about the fasting. Um, but with the next stage of the fasting, it's probably 3 days to 7 days, depending how long you're doing a fast for. I would recommend as well just to notice how you look and feel and make notes. And this is your experience, right? And you should be feeling more energetic and less hungry or less hangry, and you're in the ketosis stage. Okay, and your body will start to burn stored fat, its main source of power, because the glucose is limited in ketosis. So although fasting should not be done, solely for weight loss, it will happen as well, and it will begin, and that in this sort of a time, and blood sugar will balance, and the fat is broken down by the body, breaking it down to glycerol and fatty acids. Okay, and they're just compounds that make fat, basically. But whilst the body is using the stored fat, the liver will produce those ketones because it's breaking down the glycerol, turning fat into ketones. It's just like a type of acid, and it sends them to the bloodstream and the brain, um, as the body's, and the brain, sorry, and as the body's not getting the glucose the way that it normally does, so it does it that way. So the ketosis will sort of helps get rid of those toxins from the body as stored fat gets used up, and that's your body cleaning itself up because of the terrain model. You've been filling your body up with toxins, but it's clearing out. And then by stage 3, about 8 to 15, if you're going to do, day 8 to 15, if you're going to do a long fast like that, as I say, build this up slowly. But you're on your way of really, really cleaning your body. Your mind's going to be more alert, sharper focus. This is healing mode at this level. And each week more you do a fast, the more healing it's going to be on your body. So like you get like the free radicals that enters your cells, and oxidative stress, all of that decreases, and you're more healthy. A 2-week water fast can literally change your life, and you'll be more resilient to anything that shouldn't be in your body, and you age healthily. You, you don't age as much. I mean, I sometimes look at myself in a non-egotistical way, and I think I'm 43. I don't feel like it. I feel like I'm 25, and that's not a joke. It's because I've renewed my body. And then stage 4, it depends roughly, what's going on in your body, but stage 4 can vary and can happen on day 16. It just continues for however long you do the fast for. Okay. But you should have noticed by then like significant changes, and you would have gone through the hard part. So we're talking about new blood, new cells, the brain being more alert, and everything should feel balanced, because you're in healing mode. Stage 5 is 15 days or longer. So again, depends, how long you want to do the fast for, and you've got to start thinking about breaking the fast as well. And as I say, something gentle like watermelon. Okay, but the whole process, you will smell. You're going to get bad breath because you're not brushing your teeth. Armpits will smell during the fast. But I've noticed that towards the end of these fasts, I smell less because your body's only cleaning up because of the toxins in the body, and that's what makes you smell. It's a bit gruesome to talk about, but it is very important. So you've got to monitor these kind of things, and also, yeah, I mean, it's a great process. I really do suggest that people, really read up about it before actually doing it, because there's so much more processes that happen in the body, and it does depend on what kind of fast that you're doing. Like I mentioned with the hard dry fast, we're talking about metabolic water. Um, in the dry fast, the body's trying to make its own metabolic water, and it does this as a byproduct of the fat burning during the fast, and burning the waste. But when you fast, the hydrogen released from the metabolized fat combines with the oxygen from the air to produce the water. So you're literally taking moisture from the air. I did touch upon it last week, and it's supplying it to the cells for a rebirth. And it's estimated that our bodies can produce more than 1 liter a day. So you're never gonna dehydrate. Okay, and as you mentioned, we're probably 90% made of water. Okay, so's the Earth. So again, we're the same. But this we make about 1 liter a day from this metabolized water, which is much purer, because I know purer is debatable because of the air being polluted, but the water will go through some kind of internal filtration process, um, and it purifies the water, and it will detoxify the two most important fluids in your body, and that's your blood and the lymph. So the other thing I wanted to mention, is that when you dry fast, the body creates, because it's not even water that you're getting, it will create like an even bigger immunological response, which increases immunoglobulins, which is it's like a protein produced by the plasma cells and lymphocytes. So we're talking about white blood cells, that attack anything that shouldn't be in the body. So the immunoglobulins they're like antibodies, yeah, um, and it increases the immunocompetent cells. You get like B cells and T cells, which make sure the immune system is functioning sort of correctly. So this is a process going on in the body when dry fasting, and as a result, this also increases, the production of interferon, which is an antibody response to fight off, as I say, what shouldn't be in the body. Um, and then there's an increase of anti-tumor activity, so stopping those cells from forming, basically. So at this stage, the T lymphocytes are really getting going, and the white blood cells are really. Your body is just so healthy when those white blood cells are being created more. So it's like a chain reaction on everything that's going on, and it's working in unison like a team effort. Um, and the body really tries to get its natural state of being by clearing out what shouldn't be in the body. So this part of the detoxification process is, it's not going to be a pleasant one, because your body is really working faster to heal. It's getting all the things going in the body, because you've stopped eating, and you've stopped drinking. And the other thing that I really wanted to say, John, is because of this detoxification process is taking place, where I mentioned that you change your blood and you change your cells. When you're doing these kind of fasts, new stem cells are created. Okay, so they're like the master cells, the building blocks of all organs and tissues, blood, um, and the immune system. They are like, it's just all like an internal repair system, regenerating the cells, right? So they're created in the tissues, and they're released in the blood, where the rejuvenation process can take place. So dry fast increases the production of these stem cells, because it's working harder compared to any other fast that you're doing, and the body is really burning up the weaker cells and the dead cells. Okay, so each cell is in the body is like, it's turned into like a furnace or a reactor. Your body's basically a fire machine, and I really, really love it because it's so misunderstood, this process. With too many people who keep saying you should be drinking water, but it's a different process comparing it to a walk fast. So does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, it does. I think it would require um, more research to kind of ingrain it, because it's complicated. And I think, yeah, I mean, you mentioned this about people researching it because I think you have to be really informed and confident before you get into anything like this, um, as I'm sure you know, George.
100%. I mean, I want to know what's happening in my body, whilst I'm doing it. I'm not going to do this just to do it, you know. I want to know, I want to sit back, and I want to say, I want to think about my cells repairing itself because I want to focus on being healthy, you know. Yeah, no, research it. I just hope that I kind of, I know it can get complicated, but I just hope that I've explained it significantly well so people can go out and do their own research. As I say, some great books to buy is The Miracle Dry Fast and Man's Higher Consciousness, and just research it yourself. Things will come to you when you want to find something, it will come to you. All this knowledge and all the books, it will come to you. If that's what you want, life will show it to you.
Nice one, George. Yeah, very great information, very clear. And yeah, I think anyone that's listening to this can probably, I think that will inspire people to kind of go down that route because it sounds like a really interesting path, and it makes a lot of sense to someone that's never fasted but kind of knows a little bit about a lot of things. Um, it kind of fits into that perspective of life that I have. Um, and yeah, we certainly could all do with detoxification. Um, just wanted to kind of ask one more question, really, and then if there's anything else you want to say, then go ahead. Um, so, how it's a bit of a difficult question, but we, you're fasting. I mean, I don't know how often you're fasting, but as we discussed right at the beginning of the podcast, that the environment is a reflection of us. So, if we changed our environment, how would that affect our fasting? Um, so, for instance, if you move from a city or a big town to the country where the air is going to be cleaner, you're going to have access to cleaner water, probably cleaner food. What would that do to your fasting?
Well, yeah, the most I was funny enough. I was about to say that the most ideal conditions to fast really is in nature, living in nature, being deep in the woods, and meditating on a mountain, breathing in that fresh air, and living there now, and taking those views. Somewhere like Milarepa Cave above the ancient village of Braga in Nepal, under the Annapurna Mountains, is a place where the Tibetan yogi Milarepa lived. And these are the ideal conditions to live in, and that is natural for us. It's not very nice to do a fast in the cities. But I've experienced it because my soul is saying, "Are you going to experience this? So you're going to just not do it because you're in the city, because then you need to do this more because you're in the city." Because it's so polluted and it's just going into your body. You know, I'd hate to see someone's to see what someone's lungs look like who's never fasted, because it's true. You know, our lungs will be polluted at a certain level, but you're going to find the fast so much easier if you're out there in nature, doing it, you know, the most natural way. And there are people that do it in nature. They just want to go away and be away from, you know, all the hustle and bustle in life. You're going to find it easier in those kind of conditions. But it's my challenge to do it in the cities and see if I can cope with it. You know, it's not easy to go to work, you know, and sort of fast like this and do 6 days no food, no water. You know, there's lots of things that go on in your mind, but it's a challenge. You know, it certainly is a challenge. But I would love to do it in nature, but we're not quite there yet, are we, John? We will get our land, you know, and you know, a beautiful lake, and we'll have all the things that we want, really. But we've got to do the best that we can with what we got, because the environment is important.
Brilliant. Yeah, it's you know, there's a lot of training and practice going on, and I think both of us and other people we know are all walking the path that we need to. You know, and we're purifying ourselves in different ways. So it's really cool to just hear you speak passionately about what you love and what it represents for you. And yeah, it's really cool. And I think next week we're probably going to go into plant medicine, aren't we?
Yeah, we can do plant medicine. What we'll do is I'll talk a bit about the germ theory and the terrain model as well, and then we'll go into the plant medicine, because it's everything that we're talking about goes hand in hand. It's all
Mm.
connected. I mean, bringing fasting into the soil and growing food, I think we've done it in a real beautiful way, because I don't think anybody else has, you know, all the other researchers and, you know, other channels have done it like this before, because this is the most important. You know, what is more important than your health? What is more important than healing all aspects of ourselves in a holistic way? We're bringing the holistic way, and we're bringing it together. So we'll do that if you're all right with that, John. Germ theory, terrain model, and then I'll start talking about the plant medicine as well next week.
Sounds great. Um, yeah, so I just wanted to kind of mention that the last recording we did was the sound was really bad, but I think we seem to have sorted it out now. We're actually using, for anyone that's listening, we're using Brave browser as a recording device because we don't really want to be using Zoom, just because it's a massive corporation and they can use your recordings. It's not your data; it's their data. Whereas Brave is an independent, and it's it's decoded essentially. So the recording only lasts for like 24 hours. Anyway, I just wanted to add that because I think it's really important to, where we can, um, get away from these big corporate capitalistic systems that don't necessarily have our best interests at heart, and that's not necessarily that there's anything amiss. It just means that we don't want to be operating within that realm if we can get away from it, or if we can have an alternative. So yeah, man, great chat. Thanks very much for your time and your knowledge, and look forward to it. So maybe next week we can carry this on, and I hope everyone's got something from it and it inspires people to consider fasting and maybe others to actually try it. And I know I'll be continuing to do intermittent fasting for sure. And when I get brave enough, I might try a water fast. So, any last words, George?
Yeah, I do want to apologise again for the sound quality last week. I haven't uploaded the podcast yet, but still, please listen to it because it's a build up to what we were talking about today. And try not to, let it put you off. If you want to listen to older podcasts as well, because we're still learning these things, and it's not always straightforward. AI can always be a pain in the butt sometimes, but generally, we're still learning. But there's a way that I want to explain these things to people because without overloading them, I want to break it into people slowly because it can be overwhelming the information that we give. Same with growing food. Same with the, mineral amendments or learning about the soil. We don't want to overload people. We want to do it slowly, break it up so people can make sense of it all. So just keep continually listening to us if you can do, because we feel like we're bringing in something new into the world. And these are the solutions to the problems that we have in the world. Once we heal ourselves, we'll see the earth heal itself. And this is what we want to do.
Yeah, George, I second that. And I'm not afraid of expanding what we're doing, and continually changing. And when new information or new knowledge comes in, we adapt. And that's really what it's all about, is not being closed off to our own evolution. And that's one thing I'm learning. If I can see myself a year and a half ago, we had this discussion the other day, how much we've both changed, just in that short space of time. It's quite remarkable. So we're sharing our real time experience, and I think that's hopefully going to be inspiring to people.
I'll second that as well. Yes, hopefully it's inspiring to people because we have changed a lot in the last year and a half, but I think there's an energy that shifted us. I think it is to do with cycles. It just goes back to cycles. And whoever want to evolve will be led to different times, to a different shift, and those who don't particularly want to grow will be left, in the same place. And we are evolving, and that's the key thing.
And it all comes back to the sun, right?
Always.
So yeah, and our connection to the wider universe. So I think these are really cool, man, because we're giving people a positive outlook on how life is, and that we don't need to worry about our own evolution. Because the more we worry, the more we kind of judge ourselves, the harder it becomes. And those judgments are just conditioning. It's the same as like that we have to eat all the time. We don't have to eat all the time. Even if we weren't having this conversation, our ancestors wouldn't have eaten 3 meals a day, right? So
Absolutely, yeah.
I want to just make that point because it brings it into reality. This is none of what we talk about is woohoo stuff. This is cutting edge science, but it's ancient wisdom. And that's the important point, is if we judge everything through the scientific lens, we lose sight of what is really possible and our own evolution. When we reduce everything, we can't see the whole. So this is really what we're trying to do with these conversations, isn't it, George? Is to help expand people's minds. And in this topsy-turvy world, although it looks like it, there's a thing called the chaos theory, and things look chaotic to our ego minds, but they're not to the universal consciousness. It's all got a part to play, everything. So brilliant, man. I suppose we'll end it there if you're happy with
Yeah,
that.
yeah, perfectly. Thanks for listening, everyone. Yeah, thanks for this podcast, John, and we'll pick up, pick it up from next week.
Brilliant. Nice one, George.
Take care, everyone.
See you later for now. Bye-bye.
Pond 5.